developer in the case to provide materials to the board and to the petitioners around the question of the slope change. Have we received that material?
I forwarded everything I've received.
So we have not received anything. It is the 18th. Materials are supposed to be provided well in advance so that we could have the discussion. I am at this point going to assume that the defendant could not produce that information. I'm going to take assumption that the failure to provide it should be grounds for us to assume that Mr. Roloff's petition that the slope change was sufficient to trigger site plan review. And I will entertain a motion to that manner. Art, can you help me craft that motion, please?
I can. I think the developers council wanted to say something. I don't know if you want to entertain a comment.
I'd be happy to entertain a comment. You can unmute Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. For the record, Attorney Mark Vaughn. I represent the developer on this. And yes, Mr. Chairman, you're correct. There was a request that we furnish that information. The information is in process of being prepared. Our civil engineer, Fred Russell, is putting it together. We did get an email last week from Mr. Roloff's indicating that their engineer, Sean Malone, was going to be unavailable to be able to review the data, and he had requested a continuance of the hearing. We respectfully would request that there be a brief continuance of the hearing. The material is being prepared. We want to make sure that we have it done accurately. I know that at the last hearing, Mr. Chairman, there was a lengthy PowerPoint presentation about the contour data that was presented. We got that, I think it was the following Monday by the time it made its way to us. So our engineer has reviewed it and is in the process of putting it together, and we feel very comfortable we can get that to you in advance of your next meeting, which, as I understand it, the two dates that were discussed were December 2nd or December 9th, and I believe that Attorney Roloff's had indicated that the 9th works, and I know that that works for us and the civil engineer, Fred Russell. So respectfully, we would ask that the board continue the hearing pursuant to Attorney Roloff's request to the December 9th date, because we do want to get that information to you. Apologize for the delay, but there wasn't any intent to not kind of obey the order of the board, if you would. It's just been some time that's been taken in order to provide it. So if the board so wishes, we could certainly provide that a week in advance of the meeting that you continue it to. So that's not an issue. Yeah,
I will admit, Mr. Attorney Vaughn, I'm a little displeased, and I think you can sense that perhaps. The materials were supposed to be provided today. We discussed this at our last meeting. It was, actually, I think our discussion was that it would be provided in advance of today to give Attorney Roloff's time to review it. So now you're saying you still don't have it today. My assumption would be that this would be materials that you would have already had to justify when you're getting your building permit that the slope change, that there was no slope change. So again, I'm confused as to the work needing to be done to produce that there was no slope change so as to not trigger site plan review. I personally am inclined to move in favor of Attorney Roloff's at this moment and not move forward with an extension.
Well, I guess if I could, I would respectfully request the board's consideration of a continuance to allow us the opportunity to provide it. I mean, there's a lot of time and effort that's gone into this. And I think that to address the comment about, the 1 foot versus the 2 foot contour data, it's not as simple as just, kind of looking at it. There's interaction between our civil engineer and the surveyor that prepared the original plan data. So, look, on behalf of my client, we apologize. I think there may have been a miscommunication along the way or just some confusion here in that once we knew that Sean Malone wasn't going to be available for the entirety of this week up until today to review it. And I guess he was away the latter part of last week as well. And we saw the request for a continuance. We were under the assumption that, it would be best to just move that to the date that we didn't want to submit it knowing that it wasn't going to be able to get reviewed, right? And then just have the board waste an evening talking about something that didn't have sufficient time to be reviewed by the petitioner's engineer. So,
But if it had been submitted, we would have at least been able to continue it on that basis. You didn't submit anything. Nothing was submitted. Nothing is in the board's hands to be able to even start our own review. And now you're saying you'd only give us a week in advance. Again, it was supposed to be no later than today.
yeah, no, I'm not saying we just, I mean, we would give you whatever time you wanted. So if you continue it to, well, I mean, we don't have it today. I mean,
Prior to 7 o'clock today was the
Yeah.
time.
So if the board were to continue it to December 9th, if you wanted to pick a date prior to receive it, we would, work with our engineer to, provide it by that date. I mean, we're trying to work with you, and I know you're trying to work with us, but I guess, if you could just understand that it wasn't as simple as we thought it was going to be initially. So.
David, Bob, you've heard my position. I'm inclined to not grant the continuance at this point and move in favor of the petitioners. You know what? I'll do it this way. I will make.
Can I ask a question?
You may certainly ask a question.
I'm interested in it, whether Attorney Roloffs has anything to say about this.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I'm not sure. All right, I'll let it go.
Well, I certainly support the view that if the board's inclined to move to find in our favor on the site plan review, obviously we support that. With respect to a continuance, if the board's going to entertain that, I would just point out that in order for us to get our response to the board in advance of your meeting so that you have time to review our response, we're going to need this information sufficiently in advance of the meeting. So we've got, 7 business days or so to review the materials, prepare a response, and then you'll want that submittal, I don't know, however many days you want it in advance of your meeting so that you can review all of the information prior to the next meeting. So I'm not sure if December 9th gives us enough time in terms of being able to review it and respond to it and to give the board time to review everything.
Well, we can furnish it I don't have a calendar right in front of me, but if the 9th is a Thursday, the beginning of that following week would be, over a week's time. So, if the 9th is a Thursday, the 2nd would be a week prior. So, the Tuesday of that week, which would be Tuesday the 30th. I mean, I think that's a date that we would,
Which would again leave me and the board reviewing materials the day of the meeting or at the meeting. Again, assuming that you get us your stuff on the 2nd, Attorney Roloffs doesn't provide his rebuttal to that until the 9th or even the 8th. Again, you'd need to provide it at the minimum by Monday if we were to grant it.
Monday, the 29th.
Actually, I would say, let's go the November 26th.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest you that the board decide on the basic direction here. And then if you want to grant a continuance,
Okay.
work backwards from your next hearing to build in the dates.
So
I'll jump in here and I agree with your position, Mark. I would second your motion.
So I was going to do this, Art. I'm going to ask you to make the motion that I started with. I think that's where I still would like to go.
Okay, I will frame the motion, and then of course, Mr. Chairman, or any board members are free to ask me to revise it however you want until you're happy with the motion. But I will propose as follows on your behalf. I move to grant the petition, grant the appeal of the building permit and revoke the building permit based on the need for site plan approval. Based on the information that the board has received to date, the developer's failure to either provide opposing information or any communication to the board before tonight's hearing.
That works for me. Do I have a second?
I'm just wondering whether we need the last two clauses about the failure. I think it's just a simple matter. Based on the information we have, we're ruling in favor of the petitioner.
I think I would like to leave the clauses in there, David.
It's your motion.
I'll
second it.
All in favor? Mark Waterbury, aye.
David Feigenbaum, aye.
Robert Tedesco, no.
All right. Art, do we need, in this matter, do we need a unanimous vote, or are we able to go? I know in some matters we only need two.
I haven't thought about that. To grant an appeal, you may need a unanimous vote of a 3-member board. I would ask Mr. Roloffs or Mr. Vaughn if they have a position on that. If not, I need to take a very brief recess and go look it up.
I believe that to be the case, that it does need to be a unanimous vote of the board. So
Art, can you take a look at it?
Yeah. Let me just go off screen for a minute.
And if I may, my no was simply based on the request to extend, which I don't have a problem with. Doesn't mean I am in favor or not in favor of the petition at this point.
No, I appreciate, I read
No,
what
and I do think that I think the petitioner had a huge amount of time the other night. And I don't think the developer had any time to even talk about anything. I mean, it's been a complete imbalance. So I think in fairness, a couple of weeks, I don't, I understand that stuff gets backed up, and I don't view it as anything clandestine or a reason to
yeah,
not let them present their, but you have your position,
Yeah,
but that's
no,
solely what I'm basing my no on, and I do
I understand that. There was literally no communication.
anybody to continue.
Yeah, there was no communication from the developer in advance. It was radio silence, the failure to provide a document, the failure to even communicate to the board that they were having trouble or needing additional time, which, probably would have swayed my decision in the alternative. But there was no communication from the developer that they were, that they had any, at the last meeting, they indicated absolutely wouldn't be a problem to provide this material. And now here we are a month later. Sorry, Art, go.
No, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this will help frame the issue for you. For Chapter 48, Section 15, as I thought, says as follows: the concurring vote of all members of the Board of Appeals consisting of 3 members, or 4 members if there are 5, shall be necessary to reverse any order or decision of any administrative official under this chapter, ... So to revoke a building permit requires unanimity on a 3-member board. And so that motion failed 2-1.
Yep.
2-1.
Understood. So. All right, given that, then then we can move forward with the continuance. The 16th is probably the next meeting that we would be able to do it at, given the time that Mr. Vaughn needs.
What do we have on the agenda for the 16th? Anything yet?
As of right now, just one matter. likely going to be a second matter.
And this would be a third?
This would be the third.
Okay. I'm just looking at my calendar. I'm available on the 16th, so I have no issue at all. I'm happy to be here and hear what they have to say.
I'm also available on the 16th.
Attorney Vaughn, are you available?
I would not even venture to say no, so I will be available on the.
David, are you available?
I'm checking here, hold on. That looks okay for me.
All right, so I will make a motion to continue petition 3950, that of Lot 2 Abbey Road, to December 16th, provided that the developer has until Monday, November 29th, to provide the requested materials to all parties.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye, David Feigenbaum.
I, Robert Tedesco.
Aye, Mark Waterbury.
Mr. Chairman, you didn't set a date for Mr. Roloffs to respond. And you don't have to put that in the motion, but I assume you'd like any response a week before your hearing.
Correct, yes. Mr. Roloffs had indicated he would need at least 7 business days, so I will expect it no later than December 9th.
Okay, that's fine. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank
Thank
you all.
you.
Okay, thank you all.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you very much. Art, I think you are free to go too, if you would like to.
Unless you want me for one of the other matters, I will take my leave. Thank you for working through that issue for tonight.
Thank you, Art. I think we're all good.
Okay, good night all.
I'm gonna now take another matter out of order. I'm going to move to 3951. Again, you know, this board has had the pattern and that of 44 Clark Street. This board has a history of not taking matters that are not right. Conservation has said that this matter needs to be before them. I would like to continue this matter to our December 16th meeting as well, so that they have time to work through with conservation any issues that may arise as a result of conservation's oversight over this project. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye, David Feigenbaum.
I, Robert Tedesco.
Aye, Mark Waterbury. All right, we are going to continue petition 3951, 44 Clark Street to December 16th as well. All right, we are smoking now. We got time on top of it all. So we are going to move on to the one that hopefully we can resolve tonight. 3948, that of Marcus J. Silva and Lucas D. Silva, concerning the property at 33 Dunster Lane. Mr. Silva, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, excellent. Janine, can you, I believe you provided us additional new drawings, Mr. Silva?
Yes, I do. And tonight I have the architect with us. So if you have any questions, he will be able to help us.
Excellent. Well, why don't we have the architect walk us through the design? Who is the architect?
He's a Marcelo. He's right there.
All right, Mr. Ferreira, I'm going to butcher your name. I apologize. So Marcelo Ferreira, are you able to share your screen, sir? Janine, I see Carlos. You have your hand raised? Janine, can you unmute Carlos? Sorry, I'm giving you lots of direction. These are usually smoother when we're in person, so. Carlos, I think you're unmuted.
All right. Yes. Good night. My name is Carlos Ferreira. I'm the engineer for this project for Marcos. Let me share my screen in here.
All right, I think you need to allow Carlos to share. Oh, perfect, you got it. Way ahead of me.
So
We don't see anything yet, Carlos. Hold on one second.
yeah.
There we go. All right. Go. We can see it now. I can see it anyway.
All right. All right, so this is, like, this is the proposed plan. I mean, we actually was requested by the DRC to like investigate the houses on the street and make something like a little bit more pleasing with the neighborhood. Couple of the comments that they had, it was regarding, I mean, we had like a disassociation of the garage from the house. The garage came like a lot forward. So we did like a research on the street, and we kind of copy a similar design of two other houses that they have on the street already. They're very similar in looks. We brought the garage back, so there's like a more distance from the street to the house. And the other thing that was like regarding the other house was like a lot bigger, and the proposal had to cut like a lot of trees, and they request us to provide like a landscape plan for the project. So I'm just gonna, this is like the front elevation, the rear elevation of the house. I mean, this is just a regular floor plan. So like this is our proposed front elevation. The houses that I wanted to point out that we like kind of simulated on the street. There's this house, which is to the left of our site, very similar to this one. And the other house, which is like right across the street from our site, very similar layout. And what we come up with, Marcelo, what was there was like a landscape plan that we provided for the property, showing like the screening.
Carlos,
on it.
it's the last page, last page.
It was, on mine, I only have like 6 pages on it.
Oh, all right. Just give me a second, I'll forward to you.
All right. But we kind of follow the recommendations from the board, which was they were like DRC objects to the garage, which protrudes from the front of the house. We brought the garage aligned with the front of the house. We did a continuity only in the proportion of the windows on the house. And we kind of simulated a similar design on the street. And we're not cutting as many trees, and we have like a landscape plan for the house. Providing screening to the abutting properties. This is what we proposed.
Excellent. Bob or David, do you have any questions?
I do, but Bob, you go ahead.
No, I'm actually just have a comment that I'm pleased with the changes that they made. I do think they listened to us, and I see it scaled way down in terms of the different style windows, and the facade of the building now is less I don't know, chaotic. I don't know what the word is, but there was an awful lot going on, and it looks like they really have dialed it down quite a bit. So when I saw these plans, I was pleased with them. So that's all I have to say at this point.
I have 3 concerns. One is that I think the gist of the comments of all 3 boards that gave us reports was that the front of the garage should be pushed back to the front facade of the house. And I just don't view what's been done as doing that. And I would want to see that done. And if you looked at the two houses that were shown as the comparables, they were pushed back to the facade. When I looked at the inside plan, it looked to me like that could be done without a lot of problem. And the second thing is I would like to see a couple of windows on the garage, on the side of the garage, because I don't think it doesn't look like a piece of domestic architecture on the side. And I think that would help a lot. And the third thing we haven't resolved yet is the plantings on the two sides that I think was a very clear comment made, and I just want to.
Let me see if I can find the, oh, it was a separate plan. This was like what we, let me share again my screen. This is what we're proposing on it, like all the, we're not touching, like we're showing like all the existing trees that were there. And this is the plans that we're proposing for landscaping on the property.
And on the portion of the property just to the left and right of the house, to
Yes.
the right of the house, I don't see anything. And to the left of the house, there's a blueberry bush, a bearberry bush, and a winterberry bush. Is that right?
Yes.
So that doesn't seem to be responsive to me, but especially on the right side. The concern I have is that these lots are fairly narrow and the people on each side are confronted at very close range with a pretty large building. And I think the gist of some of the comments of the boards was that they wanted something in there to screen the house from the adjacent houses. So
Yeah, that can be easily addressed. We can solve that issue easily.
well, I'd like to see how you're going to solve it, but I agree with you. It could be easily solved. Or I suppose that could be a condition. That could
That
be
was
a,
what I was gonna go with, David. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think the landscaping and the windows can be resolved through conditions. I think we could, I mean, becomes a catch-22 if you put a bunch of arborvitaes along the right-hand side of the house. You're gonna have windows there that look out onto arborvitaes.
I understand that.
But I do think you could, I mean, I think we could impose, that would be a reasonable condition, which it sounds like the developer would be willing to entertain, the, planting of arborvitaes along the left and right side of the house or similar such plantings so as to provide appropriate and reasonable screening.
Well said.
I think.
What about the garage?
I mean, we brought the garage aligned with the structure of the house. I mean, if we bring it even further back, I mean, we'd be like behind the front porch. I mean, we achieved that, like there's one full facade in here, which is like the porch aligned with the garage.
Yeah, I think, I mean, to my mind, David, and I get where you're going, and I do understand that. I think at some level, I think the developer has gone. Is it 100% of what we want? No, but have they come a long way from where we started to get to something that's reasonable? There's a number of houses in Winchester, in my own neighborhood, that have similar garage style structures. Is it, I can, I would, again, conditioning it on the windows on the side, 100% in favor of. I would, as well as the screening. I feel like they've come a long way in moving that garage back from where we started, where it was, it felt like a mile and a half of roof, it felt like the whole garage was in front of the house.
So,
Connected
so,
by-
so I
So-
should have said when I spoke, and this is typical of me, that the changes that have been made are excellent. It really responds to most of what we were concerned about, and the house looks much better, and I'm much more comfortable with it. I'm still not comfortable with the garage.
No, but
And
I think what I would say is I think the flip side of that is also if we start to do that, then you're gonna start to move the garage back, which means likely the developer's gonna roll part of the house back, which means some of the trees in the back are gonna start to come down. I would balance keeping those trees with, the garage no longer looks disconnected or disproportionate from, in my mind, from the rest of the house. It seems at least tied in and largely connected to the rest of that house, rather than a garage with a house behind it. It now feels like these new plans seem to at least tie it in. The symmetry has been corrected. The windows have been corrected. I think that a lot of that work has been done to correct the pieces so that, I mean,
So I have a question, which is,
sorry, go.
what is the vote needed here? My impression from the rules of the board are that for a site plan review, which this is, the vote, you only need 2 people to approve the,
That would be correct. I
and
think
so
that's-
I don't know what how he's gonna vote, but I'm inferring from his comments that he will vote in favor of this. And you 2 would then carry the day, and I'm gonna vote against it, if that's the way it goes.
And that's your prerogative. Again, I like, as you know, David, I like to be unanimous. I like to, as many times as possible, get unanimity, but I'm not, again, I want to pause because I do see that there's a member of the audience with their hand raised. So I want to make sure that, I know that we've not had members of the audience on this presentation before. So I do want to, Joyce Westerner, I see your hand raised.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Okay. So I'm at 26 Dunster, so I'm across the street and one closer to Ridge Street. And this garage that you're seeing on the screen here aligns with the front porch. And that's exactly what our house does, which we built in 2008. So of course, we as abutters think that this is perfectly acceptable. That's really all I wanted to say. I like this. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Ms. Westner. I appreciate that. So, are there any other comments?
Mark, can we go back to, can you take this down now so we can see everybody?
Yeah, we can stop
Yes.
sharing now.
Stop sharing that. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
So, and so I will, I do think David is correct that I think we need it. It's a vote of 2 to approve this if we wanted that. As I will entertain a motion. David, I don't know if there's any other questions you have. You've heard from the members of the audience. You will vote your conscience as you always do, and I appreciate that. So,
Oh, I'm fine.
I make a motion to approve petition 30. That's the wrong one. Sorry. Petition
3948.
8, that of Marcos J. Silva and Lucas D. Silva concerning the property at 33 Dunster Lane, conditioned on the placement of windows along the garage, along the right side of the garage, and the placement of reasonable and appropriate screening, similar to arborvitaes along the left and right side of the properties.
I'll second
Second.
that.
Second, all right, all in favor?
On the motion, real quick, I think, again, we should reference the most recent plans that we're
Yes.
approving.
It's, the most recent plans will be submitted when we
Okay.
write it up.
Yeah.
We'll do that. All right.
All right.
Perfect.
Want to make sure.
Yep.
No. So I'll vote no, David Feigenbaum.
Yes, Robert Tedesco.
Yes, Mark Waterbury. All right. The motion passes. Robert, Bob, will you write this up?
I gotta be honest with you, I haven't gotten to the other one yet.
I'll take-
I don't know, David,
I can
David's-
write it if you want.
David, even though he's in opposition, I think it's okay, no?
You want to
Why
write it,
not?
David? That's fine. Go right ahead.
You know, it's up to you, but I'm happy to write it.
I'm fine with you writing it.
Yeah.
So, all right, so we will then, that motion approved. We'll move forward with that. I don't think we have anything else for tonight, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can I
Oh,
interrupt
yes,
for,
sorry,
for
David.
just 20 seconds, which is that, and I don't think Bob knows this, but I've spent quite a bit of time revising the proposing revisions to the forms that are being used to gather information for our meetings, because some forms were non-existent and others I don't think squared with the law and so on. And I'm hoping and proposing sometime in one of the near future meetings, maybe in January, that we have a chance to look at them and talk to them. And I think Janine can probably circulate those before that, put it on the agenda and circulate it, and we'll discuss them. I'm just telling you what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on that point, oh, Janine, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Sorry, Art still has them, so he's been reviewing them, and when he sends them to me, I'll send them all back out.
Oh, that's fine. Very good.
Excellent.
And another thing I'd like to see, I don't know what control we can have over this, but when information is submitted to us for review prior to a meeting, can we create a deadline? It's a little difficult to all of a sudden at 4 o'clock, prior to a meeting, bing, there's a whole new set of plans to review. I wonder if we can put some type of a deadline other than, sure, administratively, an attorney may become ill and has to ask for an extension. That might be very last minute. But, getting all of this stuff so close to a meeting, it's tough. I'd like to know a date certain, it's by 7 days prior to our scheduled meeting. That's when we have everything. So that's something maybe we can look at,
Yeah, I think we can look at that for our rules. I don't know. I mean, right, I think there will always be, we can of course require of the petitioners and the opposition. I don't know what we can do for the members of the public at large. I think we'll be limited there. But I also think that, the tools and levers that we have are there, right? We can't necessarily deny, if the materials are there, we can't.
Yeah.
We have to review them, but we can always continue it.
Right.
We have other levers that we can pull when we find, especially where you find developers or attorneys being abusive to the process.
Right.
We get sometimes. So.
Yeah, that's all. Because I just want to be able to look at things thoroughly and.
No, we all do, and it bugs me the same way where I get it on even the Monday before it's like too late. It's usually the weekend before meeting is when I carve out time to review this stuff.
Right.
So
right.
I'll make the time, but it means I've got to take time away from something else. So I agree with you. As we think through the rules, making sure that we have some paradigm. There will always be exceptions granted, but the other rule is they show up and we just say we're continuing this off the bat because you sent us everything on 2 hours before the meeting started and there's no meaningful discussion to be had. So we're going to continue this, and you can sit on it, and your building permit will continue for longer because you were on time.
Yeah. Good.
So.
Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Second. In favor.
Second.
Hi, David Feigenbaum.
Hi, Robert Waterbury. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll see you all on the 16th. Goodbye, all.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
All right. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You too. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.